Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. Have you looked around lately and felt like, I don't know, you accidentally stepped straight into a science fiction movie? Because honestly, that is exactly where we're heading right now. Today, we're unpacking some very real discoveries that are shaping our near future, specifically looking at the year 2026. We're going to explore massive breakthroughs in materials science, microrobotics, and even our own genetic code. And let me tell you, the research coming out right now is absolutely mind-blowing.
So, there's this quote from our source material that really hits the nail on the head for today's explainer. Inventions from 2026 that seem like magic. You know that old famous saying by Arthur C. Clarke? The one about how any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic? Well, the research we're unpacking today proves that point perfectly. We are going to look at three incredible scientific breakthroughs that are absolutely going to make you rethink what's physically and biologically possible.
All right, let's jump to Section 1, Water from Thin Air, Harvesting the Desert.
We're starting off with an engineering feat that genuinely sounds like a mirage, producing life-sustaining water in environments where there is literally none. Picture it. On one side, you have the incredibly harsh, bone-dry reality of desert air. Hostile, barren, basically devoid of resources. And on the other side, clean drinking water, the absolute ultimate source of human survival. So how in the world do we bridge the massive gap between these two extremes? How do we literally pull water out of thin air?
Well, it all comes down to some cutting-edge material science. Specifically, these things called metal organic frameworks, or MOFs for short. Here's how it works. Step 1. These highly porous materials act on a molecular level to trap the absolute tiniest amounts of water vapor that are just floating around in dry air. Step 2. The system forces condensation using ambient heat or solar energy. It's kind of like squeezing a microscopic sponge, but the sponge is the air itself, forcing that captured vapor into a liquid form. And then, Step 3. That liquid is collected, and boom, you have perfectly clean drinking water. It's a literal game changer for drought-stricken regions all over the globe.
Moving right along to Section 2, Smart Dust, the micro-robotic frontier.
So, we just looked at macroscopic engineering, pulling water from the sky. Now, let's scale things down, way down. We're moving to an almost invisible world of technology that's just floating in the air around us. I want you to imagine an entire microscopic sensor. It's packed with microelectromechanical systems, or MEMS, that can actually gather and transmit data. But here is the crazy part. It is smaller than a single grain of sand you'd find at the beach. No way, right? That is what smart dust is. It's a piece of tech so incredibly small and lightweight that it can quite literally float on the air currents.
Okay, so why does this actually matter? Well, look at these dual applications. On one hand, you could deploy millions of these floating microsensors to gather hyper-precise environmental data. We're talking real-time monitoring of weather patterns, detecting pollution levels, or tracking chemical signatures across huge areas. But it gets even more intimate than that. These exact same microscopic marvels can be used to track precise medical data inside us. Imagine a smart dust mote floating right through your bloodstream, detecting early markers of inflammation before you ever feel a symptom. It's a technological frontier that permeates literally everything. Up next is Section 3, the viruses within us, our genetic magic.
All right, we are pivoting hard from microrobotics around us to the ancient biological history hiding right inside our own DNA. Prepare to have your mind blown by this number, 100,000. That is the staggering amount of human endogenous retroviruses, or HERVs, that scientists have mapped directly inside the human genetic code. Just let that sink in for a second. Your DNA, the very blueprint of who you are, is absolutely loaded with the remnants of 100,000 ancient viral invaders.
Now, this completely flips our standard narrative. We are so used to thinking of viruses strictly as the bad guys, right? Just pathogens that make us sick. But the research reveals something way more profound. These 100,000 viral sequences aren't just biological hitchhikers. They are ancient drivers of our human evolution. For instance, did you know the very development of the mammalian placenta was made possible by an ancient viral protein? They essentially upgraded our biological software over time and actively shaped the species we are today. To put that into perspective, let's look at how this builds over time. Billions of years ago, this whole massive process kicked off, with early viruses integrating their own sequences into the genetic code of primitive life forms. Fast forward to millions of years ago, and we see ancient DNA evolution being actively driven and accelerated by these viruses, really pushing biological complexity forward. And that brings us to the astonishing breakthrough of 2026.
Our technology has finally advanced enough that scientists can successfully map all 100,000 of these ancient viral sequences within us. We are finally reading the complete history book of our own biological making.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 4, our high-tech future, blurring the lines.
We've journeyed from machines that literally conjure water out of dry desert air, to microscopic robots the size of sand, to the ancient viral code that built our bodies over billions of years. The gap between what is biological and what is technological, it's vanishing right before our eyes. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question. If our deep past was built by ancient viruses upgrading our DNA, and our immediate future is being built by smart dust, what will we become next? As we march into 2026 and beyond, we aren't just observing the reality of human existence, we are actively writing its next chapter. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.